New Morales, the reworked Morales. They call it a rework, but I don't really think it's like a really big rework, but it does drastically affect the way that you play and can get away with playing Morales. Caduceus Reactor, of course, now having a few different options earlier in the game. Caduceus Reactor 2.0 baked in, which we'll get into, but everything is the same, and I want to cover the very basics. Healing Beam. You don't have to heal a person to 100% before you heal another person. Pass that thing around. Make sure you're healing the right person at the right time. If you're healing somebody to 100% before you heal somebody, I'd rather have a person at 80% and 60% as opposed to 100% and 40%. Don't be that Morales that's like, I'm going to heal this person to full, then I'm going to heal that person to full, then I'm going to heal this person to full, then I'm going to heal that person to full. It will never work, and it's completely unreliable. If you've ever been on the receiving end, you're also limiting what those heroes can do, what those players can do. You are not enabling them. You are enabling one person at a time instead of enabling an entire team. Always remember that. Safeguard, we'll talk more about this. Level 7, Displacement Grenade. Displacement Grenade, interrupt mosh pits, keep Garrosh off of you, create space around your teammates that are being dove upon, knock somebody back like a Stitches that just hook gorge somebody, throw the grenade behind them, throw the grenade in front of them from walking up to your team. Don't just use this and start flinging it out for damage, especially because we're not going grenade build, so don't do it. Caduceus Reactor, remember you can heal minions as Morales so that you can heal yourself in a time of need. If you're running away and you think you're going to die, just press Q on a minion. If there are no heroes nearby, you will still heal. If you're healing somebody at 100%, you do not use energy. So if they're at 100% health and you're healing them, you don't use energy. Now you don't gain energy, but if it's a nice way to heal yourself if needed. A few things to remember. And now let's get into it. Level 1, this is going to be very similar to the build that I had put up before. However, there are going to be some major differences in terms of what you can get away with, because I think it's pretty great. Caduceus Feedback is my #1 pick as a Morales. And on the last video, people are like, well, I can't ever get an auto attack range. If you can't get an auto attack range and you don't feel comfortable auto attacking and you play Morales, I got news for you. You need to play a different character. Multiple reasons why. One, this talent here. You're basically, with this build, going to have infinite energy, where you are going to just auto attack like crazy and hit and hit and hit. To be fair, Morales has the longest auto attack range of any healer in the game when you pick this talent. Longer than Tyrande. Any character, like there's only a few characters in the game that have longer auto attack range than a Morales with this talent. It's 6.6. What's where New Zagara is. If you cannot auto attack, you, 1, shouldn't be playing heroes. 2, you shouldn't be there. That's the tough love of it. Second reason, Lieutenant Morales has the highest damage for a ranged auto attack healer, and basically the second highest damage behind Stukov, I believe. It's like 80 at level 1. It's really high for a healer, like 70 something. It's really high for a healer without any talent spec'd into it. Morales has some of the highest auto attack damage. You are foregoing thousands of damage if you aren't auto attacking. If you're gifted 1.1 range and you get energy from auto attacking and you do a lot of damage and you can't get that, you should play a different hero. With that being said, let's look at some of the other talents really quickly. Life support, I don't really understand this. During the first 2 seconds of energy regeneration, Healing Beam regenerates 100% more energy. It's from 6 down to 5 per second, and it's in half-second intervals of 2.5, as opposed to a 1 second interval of 6. So you do get a little bit back quickly, although I can get 8 energy back in 2 seconds just by auto attacking. I can get 12 energy back in 3 seconds by auto attacking without having to do anything. Plus I have my natural regen. It's better. The baseline does kind of tie into if you did want to go into first responder later, but that does require you to play a certain style, which I don't necessarily endorse. A grenade build is kind of neat because the way that they've kind of changed things with some of the talents, especially between level 4 and 13. There's some really cool 13 stuff. But let's focus on Caduceus Feedback. This is the one. That is the main concept. Auto attack like crazy and you're going to be fine. All right, level 4. Most of the time, they were considered really bad talents. Really, really bad talents, and there was only really one, which was Blast Shield, which they've slightly changed it. Enemy heroes hit by displacement grenade are slowed by 50%, which is cool, but the shield was the only way that you really had to effectively stay alive, which is why grenade build was really good. Trauma trigger used to be bad. Cellular reactor used to be bad until now. Okay, there are multiple reasons why these are good. Consume 30 energy to heal Lieutenant Morales for 30% of her maximum health over 3 seconds. You now have a self-heal. This is something Morales, other than 2% per tick, was really tough. Or 2 per second. That was your only real way of healing. And so that's why it's like just focus Morales, forehead. And it was really good. So now you have 2 talents. We're going to talk about both of them because I want to talk about why both of them are good in the right situation. Cellular Reactor is basically all situations where you know that you're not going to be hard dove with a ton of CC. I can heal up for 30%, and even then it might be good. But I can heal up for 30% of my health, which is something I didn't have before, which right now you're just above 1500 at level 1. So you're talking about 500 healing, self-healing at level 1, which is a lot of healing. So they did nerf this part, but they added, baked in a level 1 talent into this level 4 talent to where now generate 2 energy each time Safeguard reduces damage up to a maximum of 10 energy per use. Now, normally you're putting Safeguard on a target that somebody is currently being attacked and might die. Why? Because Safeguard gives 30 armor, down from 35, but still strong. So now I know that I'm putting armor on a target that's being prioritized and damaged, so therefore I'm going to get energy back. So I couple that with Caduceus feedback and my 10 energy, and I look at this, and this is an 11-second cooldown, and it's 3-second uptime, so it's 8 seconds downtime. But the 10 energy could come back within 1 second, could come back within 2, should most likely definitely come back within 3. So I have 8-second downtime on 10 energy, which means I'm going to constantly be cycling energy so I can keep healing forever. And Caduceus feedback helps as well. Now, to the point of heavy dive comps, if I am going against the heavy dive comp, that's probably when I would consider going grenade build. Other than that, this is a pretty much safe build to run anywhere. So 30% healing, fantastic. Getting energy back, fantastic. Infinite healing, I'm never a liability. In this situation, things are pretty good. Trauma trigger. Now, this one's really strong and also good versus dive comps. Taking damage while below 40% health grants 40 armor for 3 seconds. It does have a 40-second cooldown, but if you're in that much duress that often, you're probably in trouble the entire game. But the cool part is, they baked a level 20 talent into this. So this used to be Caduceus Feedback 2.0 or whatever it was called. Increase the healing provided by Caduceus Reactor from 2% to 4%, which means that I can just now heal, and I'm healing for 4% per second while I'm channeling, and life's good. So this is a lot more healing back than before. This used to be the go-to level 20 talent that's now half of a level 4 talent. Any questions? So that's pretty good. So both of these are good in different situations. Dive, dealing with a lot of damage where you know you're going to be dove, is pretty good to where you can't control them. You can't keep them off of you. Think about maybe if a Zeratul is in the game, he's going to try and dive you. You can safeguard yourself. That might be enough, but dealing with an onslaught or CC, you need something that triggers automatically. Which means that Trauma Trigger does that, and it takes the W button out of your hand and puts you with something better if you are being dove. Both of these are good for different situations, although Cellular Reactor for me is a much more go-to pick. Level 7 didn't change, and I'll say I'm pretty sure Vanadium Plating is still going to be the go-to pick. While an ally affected by Safeguard is stunned or rooted, meaning that you can put this on somebody before they get stunned or rooted, voice crack, while they're stunned or rooted, and that makes it really easy to get this 25 armor. Somebody gets slid upon, just press W on them. You see somebody about to get dove on, press this on them. So it takes place while it's happening. It's not like a cleanse to where you have to hit it at just the right time. You can hit it before or after, preferably after, because that's normally when the pain is coming. The other cool part increases the duration of safeguard by 1 second, and of course, generate 2 energy each time safeguard reduces damage. So you have another second to get that 5th tick, which generally is going to be pretty easy, and it also plays really well into 16. Vanadium plating still basically a go-to. If I'm playing against a very, very passive Lunara, Gul'dan, poke style team, Metadrone will probably be the one that I look towards because it does allow me to safeguard one target, heal another, and heal 2 people at a time. This is the rare. When they put this in, I thought this was really good for Morales so that she had some AoE healing of some sort, which was pretty cool. Physical therapy, I don't really know. Really know where I think this is good. Level 10. This one's a little complicated, so I'm going to keep it short because they did add reinforcements. A level 20 talent now is here. So you can call down a medevac dropship at your Hall of Storms for your allies. After 10 seconds or when the ability is activated again, the medevac will travel to the original cast location to unload its passengers, which is pretty cool. Your team dies, bring them right back. This could be a pretty clutch thing to have happen. Actually, I think this is really cool. I like this a lot. Medevac can also be, if you're a Morales player, you've done this before. If you're a Morales who's in a lot of trouble and you need to save yourself, this is a save yourself button. If you say I have 45-second cooldown on something that puts me basically in a sort of stasis at the time, and it has an escape if it doesn't get blown up, I'm cool with that. If I'm getting pyroblasted in lower ranks, it's probably more common, and I don't have armor, I'll stop in the medevac and I'll just dip out. Like, 2 meters beside me. It's going to be fine. Just getting halfway across the screen can be the difference between living and dying. Stim drone was reduced, and I talked about this during the patch notes video. Cooldowns, okay? 60-second cooldowns mean that you'll have them for every major team fight, even early. 70 seconds is every major team fight post like 13. And late game, guaranteed to have it every major team fight because if people die and you come back, that is a 60-second death timer or more, which means by the 10 seconds you go there in the cycle of things. A 90-second cooldown meant that you might have it in between all of that. It was never a guarantee, and it forced you to kind of go into the level 20. Whereas this one now brings it to a place where you'll have it for every major team fight, which I think is really cool to make life a lot easier for Morales to feel good about picking this. And not feeling like I have it for one fight, but not the other for the majority of your fights. So I like the fact that they buffed this to be 70 seconds. I do like this if I have a pretty solid auto attacker, but if I'm going against someone with a lot of blinds, if I'm going against an Artanis, I'm waiting until Artanis uses his blind because it's a 4-second blind, which is really tough. And you're losing almost half the value of this talent. If they're not using it, or certain people aren't using their blinds, then I'll probably just be more aggressive with it. Level 13. Now, these are pretty cool because this one here is a new one. Bedside Manor. Heroes hit by displacement grenade will take an additional 6% of maximum health as damage from Lieutenant Morales' next basic attack against them. This is really cool. I mentioned this about using this versus tanks to disengage, to separate them from your team, to keep them away. This is now a tank buster. But going back to the original concept of Morales has really high auto attack damage for a healer. Now, basic attacks against heroes deal an additional 1% of maximum health as damage, meaning that you no longer have to use your grenade for damage. And for Morales, her grenade does do 208 baseline damage, which is actually really good when you consider it's an AoE ability. So why not go grenade build? That's a story for another time because I really like this build. And I do think it's much more consistent and better. But Bedside Manor means, especially because they move the grenade talent, if you're familiar with it, they move the grenade talent to 20. I'm not going to wait on 20 to try and hit 2 people over and over and do 6% damage. That's unrealistic. It's like trying to swing for the fences every time you go up there and striking out 80% of the time, but occasionally you'll hit a big one. But the auto attack thing, remember, you have extra auto attack range, makes it pretty good. I do like System Shock versus a heavy dive team, reducing the damage of them coming at me or hitting my team. This can be the difference between life or death. Think 30 armor, but in reverse. You're nerfing 30% of their damage. EMP grenade against Zarya could technically be against Johanna, who has shields, and Phoenix. Those are heroes that naturally have shields in a lot of ways. Good to use against them if the moment calls for it. 16. There's a couple of really good ones here, and this one is probably the most intriguing one to me now, given the way that they reworked the 1 and 4 talents. I do still really like Shield Sequencer. They also added some range onto this. If you've ever played Morales and you have a crazy dive hero, and you're like, well, look, I saved one person in the back line, but I can't save that person in the front line because I compromised my positioning and then I just died. This is it. I've actually been there multiple times, and you want to save your 2 teammates in 2 different places, but it's impossible. They gave it 60% increased range, which is super cool. Means that you can play super far back naturally with your auto attack talent, and you have 2 charges of this, and you have extra armor and the extra duration. So now you have a lot of this. They do not stack. So always stagger these if you've got to use them on the same person. Else this allows you to hit 2 people, which is tremendous in a lot of fights. And you can use this especially with the level 7. Let's talk about the other ones, because they did actually add on to extended care. The reason this is important is because they added a hot to it, a heal over time. Channeling Healing Beam on a hero for at least 3 seconds causes them to be healed for 258 over 3 seconds. So about 80 to 90 healing per second, which is good, but not great. But it still allows you to hot somebody up. Oh, I got this person to 70%. Remember the concept earlier? I don't need to heal them to 100%, but 3 seconds of healing. And when you consider that I'm healing them 172 per second, all of a sudden, I'm now healing them for 1.5 times of 1 second of my normal healing. So now they're getting an extra, let's say I heal them for 4 seconds. They're effectively getting 4.5 seconds of healing for free, that extra 1.5 seconds. So that's really cool. It does take 3 seconds though. But this does allow you to, here's 3 seconds worth of healing for you. Here's 3 seconds of healing for you. And that way you don't have to worry about topping every single person off. You can switch targets. You should already be doing that, but this now incentivizes you to do it. So it's good practice before, and it's really good practice after. I do like this against those dot style teams. This also increases the range of Healing Beam, which is nice. But I think this is really good against dot teams. I mentioned earlier against like a Lunara or somebody that's going to have that poison damage. So that is pretty cool, I think, for that. This also helps the dive heroes. So think you're playing with an Illidan. You keep Healing Beam on them. They go in. They go out of range and you can't reach them anymore. But you did have 30% increased range, which means that you reach them for like an extra second or so. And then they break the beam. And guess what? They're still getting healing for another 3 seconds, which is cool. First Responder, again, is the one I think that is probably the most intriguing to me. If you did go Caduceus Feedback and if you did go Cellular Reactor, that would be the only time I pick this. It means you have to be extremely active with auto attacking and making sure that you are getting every ounce of auto attack. You're getting damage back on your safeguard. And this way you can get some really big healing early. The longer the fight goes on, the harder it is for you to keep that up. But this also means that you're going to give them movement speed now, which I think if you're playing with a hyper carry who has low health and is going to take damage fast, like from a Zeratul, this can help. But normally that's where armor comes in. This is going to last a lot longer. Shield Sequencer and the other 2 in niche situations. Level 20. So where do we go here? I actually really like Hospice Care. So Safeguard grants its target, what a name, by the way, grants its target unkillable for 1 second. Now this is, you normally are going to put Safeguard on somebody that's low and then you give them armor. Well, if I give them armor and I especially give them 55 armor and I heal them, they probably shouldn't die. So why would I pick this? There is going to be times where you are going to need that unkillable effect. Think about those times where something's coming in. Pyroblast, always the easiest option, but there are other options where you see somebody that's going to die. So this gives them the unkillable for 1 second. If you went with the level 16, you can movement speed get them out of there, which is kind of cool. But it does give them 8%. I don't think 8% is actually enough for me, but the unkillable effect is the main thing behind this. Getting an extra 8% healing, assuming that I'm going to press W on them, keep them from dying, switch targets, press Q on them, and then they don't die, and they get 8% healing, plus they get whatever healing I've given them, in that 1 second. So that's pretty good and can be the difference between somebody living and dying beyond that armor. Second opinion, if you went grenade build, I would go this. However, I'm not a big fan of it. Hyperactivity, I mentioned cooldown reductions. I don't like level 20 talents that give you cooldown reductions on heroics, because rarely are you going to use a heroic that's on a 35 to 40 second cooldown twice in a fight, unless that fight is completely bonkers. But let's think about this. Hyperactivity, now it's 35 seconds. And if my uptime on Stim Drum is 10 seconds, there's a 25 second downtime. Will the fight be over in less than 35 seconds? Probably. But at level 20, sometimes it's good to fight, retreat, and come back and fight again. So hyperactivity is kind of a, you have to read it situation. Is the enemy team a blow-up style team? If not, then you can probably go hyperactivity. But most fights post level 20 end fast, which is why I like hospice care. It just means you have to be very precise on your timing, which for some of you might be more difficult until you practice it. So hyperactivity is a very safe backup pick. And the movement speed bonus on this, of course, if somebody's dying and running, just heal the person that you've got stemmed up. Don't let them die, else you're just wasting your talent. I talk a lot about when is Morales good. I think Morales is almost good on every map if she's a late draft pick. I don't think she's super great in general if she's an early pick, because I think some of those counters still exist. Despite having the extra auto attack range, tanks that can make gap closers and make it difficult for you. Nubarak, Muradin, especially Muradin. If Muradin goes Skullcracker, where he has mini stuns, it interrupts your beam and you have to retarget it, and there is a downtime, which does kind of suck if you get stunned. Which is why those double stun tanks, the cocoon tanks, they create a priority target. So it's normally why you pick Morales more as like a pocket pick as opposed to a pre-second ban pick. But I do think she could be really good. She's in a much better place now. Before, it was extremely niche when you could pick Morales, because you had to last picker, and it had to be with the right team, and versus the right team on the other side with your team against that team on the right map. But with these new level 4 talents, life is a lot easier. So in recap, Caduceus feedback into cellular reactor, into vanadium plating, into either of these. It just kind of depends on the situation. Bedside manner, keep auto attacking, shield sequencer with an outside shot at the other ones, and hospice care or hyperactivity, whichever one you feel comfortable with there. So that's Morales. That's the new rework, and let's see how she